What's good? What's good? What's good? This is Dre, aka Andre Dawn Music, with Tariq Bayan. This is the International Underground Entertainment Magazine, UG Mag Online. Tonight we have conversations in hip hop with Spiritual Coast, Miss Bonnie Harrison, and we just keeping this energy flowing right now. It's very powerful. The past few weeks, we've been having this discussion. What's going on in hip hop? Today
Bonnie. This is Coach Bonnie checking in.
We have Coach Bonnie. That's great. We're on the air. We have Mr. Archange Jay Blackwell. Jay, say what's going on to the viewers. 2 million listeners.
Hi, how are you doing? This
Just
is Blackwell.
Great. Just great. Glad you able to check in with us.
Oh, sure, no problem. This is I always like listening to the discussions of the day. Especially when it comes to hip-hop.
We've been having some very lively and insightful discussions about various aspects of hip-hop and its impact on the community, particularly on younger, more vulnerable minds. And there are pros and cons that we've been discussing about that particular genre of music. And so that's really what the conversation centers around, people's attitudes and opinions about, number one, the lyrics, and number two, the images that portray women in particular. There are also people that believe that people have the right to express themselves as artists any way they choose, and that anything short of allowing that to happen is censorship, and that should not be something that any of us would want to see happen. So this is part of the conversation, and we welcome some of your ideas and opinions about it.
Okay. As far as my ideas are concerned, it goes, or my opinions about it. Let me go from that aspect. That's, I guess you could say, mixed views. We as artists, or even companies that put the message out, have a major responsibility, because everything that's said and shown is influential. Yes, I believe in not censoring the truth, a good message, but at the same token in time, with that idea or truth, message, etc., we still have to keep in mind that there are impressionable minds. Most young people or children, they learn more from what they see than what's said to them. And music is a major teacher, so to speak, because it covers almost every aspect, from the imagination, melodies that'll stick into your head, which messages get planted subliminally in the subconscious. So yeah, everything that's said and done has to be thought out before actually doing it. If not, then that's just as bad as having a loaded gun.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because when I started this conversation, one of the things that I thought would happen, it has not happened. And what I thought would happen is that there would be a larger number of people who advocated for the new form of hip-hop. And what I'm finding is that more people than not are of the same opinion you are, that people should be able to, and it's the responsibility of the artist, that's what I think, to transmit these messages about culture and about, socio-political things and family, and that's the role of the artist. But I had said last week that in every society there are rules of conduct.
Exactly.
And in every society, every single society, there are rules of conduct that speak to how children can be handled and what they can and cannot experience. And that there are certain things that are forbidden for children to do, to say, to hear, to see, certain things you cannot say around children. There are conversations children are not allowed to be present to hear because it's for mature ears. So when we have a music form that doesn't take that into consideration, that's becomes then, I think, the responsibility of the community to express their opinion about the what is with that particular music, if it's music, if it's something else, it's something else.
Well, the last time, one of the other conversations I remember us having, or me listening into, and people brought up a lot of good points. The problem is not just one problem. It's coming from multiple different areas simultaneously. So the key to it, when we got to the end of the show, I was trying to slip in that the key is education. We have to educate, bridging the gap between the different areas, because we have old school, we have the new old school, we have the new school. We went from a transition of rap, which a lot of people don't even know the history of hip hop. You have rap, which is rhythm and poetry. Hip hop was birthed from that. It didn't come before it. Before it, you know what I'm saying? It had elements of hip hop in it, but it was rap. It was a category of music that they didn't even feel was going to last 10 years. They laughed at it. Even a lot of musicians joked at us. It was like, oh well, they don't even have real talent. Well, it surpassed the 10-year mark. By the time the 80s was the birth of hip hop, the ending of the ending of the 70s going into the 80s was the birth of hip hop, from your Africa Bambatas, your Grandmaster Flashes, et cetera, where we had messages. Hip hop was a culture. It was the voice of the people to wake people up on and make them conscious. Yes, there are many variations of hip hop, from your party, your chill moments, your educational moments, your love moments. We have, from the late 80s into the 90s, a variation of hip hop. But in the early 90s, coming out up till now, there was a system, a plan that was implemented that kind of shifted everything. Where, yes, you may have your underground. Underground back then used to be hardcore. Underground now is anything that doesn't surface to mainstream. We had a lot of uplifting artists back then, but the transition went from let's promote more negative, because the plan was to get more people to pack up the prisons, because it was a whole corporation money game there. In today's time, it's not even, I won't even consider it hip hop. As of right now, the underground is keeping hip hop alive. What people are blending is they're going back into rap, where it's just a category of music. Yes, it may have negative subliminal messages, but you got more people who don't know anything, no history, nothing. They don't have a message other than anything negative, because it's selling, it's being supported. People may say they want positivity, but they don't go out to the stores or they don't download, purchasing it through iTunes or what have you, that positivity that exists.
Absolutely.
So,
well, then the question becomes one of, is it about giving the people what they want even though what they want is killing them? Or is there a way to, why is it that, and maybe that's the answer. I've been all over Africa, for example. I've been all over the Caribbean, for example, and the music in those cultures really, truly is a testimony to people's lives and their love and the politic of the land. You don't hear the vulgarity. You do not hear it. And the only time you began to see that in other countries was when the artists began to emulate the black artists here in this country and began to adopt the swag. You know, they adopted the language, the lilt in the language, the dress, the caps turned backward, the jeans, now they're sagging. So they too are replicating a form of music that's not representative of the way we want to get the message out. So what do you do when people continue to produce it? Because there are so many people who love it.
But see, that's the thing. America, and I really hate to put it this way, but America has been blinded to a lot. Like hip-hop in other countries, if you go to, let's say, Europe, from London, Germany on down, they love hip-hop. We're talking about the old hip-hop. Messages, positivity, the music, the whole movement. If I remember when I did my compilation album some years back, I had got a company out in Germany that was willing to distribute me out there. And they said as long as, the only thing that we ask for is stuff that's not on the radio. Because they already knew, like, the radio is geared one way. We want the good stuff, the messages, the real nitty gritty of hip hop.
Mm-hmm. They want the original stuff.
Yeah, and then the sad part was, I loved the fact that they loved us like that, but it made me sad at the same note, because I'm looking at America like, wow, like I've been to the West Coast, I've been to California, and they love East Coast artists and producers. Namely, they love one of my closest friends, which is K-Def. They loved his production, and I'm like, well, wow, because we don't really hear that on the East Coast, or how y'all feel about us really on the West Coast, on the East Coast from the West Coast, other than what's promoted, like when the whole Biggie and Pac thing went. Mm-hmm. Anything negative is promoted and glorified and put in the media's eye, so that's what people think really exists compared to the reality of things.
Yeah, well, and by now, though,
I think that the artists right now,
a lot of us know that. You know, that's not a secret anymore.
Yes, it's not a secret, but the problem is it goes back to the root. The people have the power, but they don't know that they have the power. Artists right now have the power. The labels may sit there and say, okay, we want this, but a lot of artists have not learned music, the formula. There's a formula to a hit song. You know, a catchy tune, something that'll make you dance, move, a catchy hook, something, it can be as cheesy as something very simple, but something that can grab your attention and stick in your head. Mm-hmm. Once you have that, the next thing is, as far as rap is concerned, is how you're flowing to the music. Your voice is supposed to be an instrument, not fighting against it. Once you have that delivery, which is part of making your voice an instrument within that musical composition, now it's left to you once you got that formula down pat, now it's like, okay, now I can put in something good. I can put in messages. I can something uplifting, et cetera, et cetera. Because the way the listener receives it, they're going to listen to the music first. If the music doesn't catch them, they turn in the channel or turning it off. They listen to the music. The hook is what sticks in their head.
Okay,
you got to catch your hook and then they'll go back and pay attention to the lyrics. I've actually witnessed a mother buy her daughter a song because the clean version played on the radio. And she's singing the tune with her daughter and everything, like, oh yeah, this is my song. Went into the record store, bought the song, came out, played the song in her car or whatever, and when she heard the real lyrics to it, she was like, oh, whoa, wait, I don't want my daughter listening to this. But you just bought it. You just supported that. And this is how we fall victim to all of this, because the labels use that as justification. Like, okay, well, this person, KRS-One, he does positive music. Is he selling? But you got this person over here talking about big booties, hoes, this, that, and the third, and they sell multi-platinum. Who do you think we're going to go with? Even though this is what they're pushing.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the people with the most vulgar lyrics sell the most music?
Honestly, that has always been, that's always kind of bothered me. Back in the 90s, I did a demo. I mean, labels wanted me left and right, but the funny part about it was I did a 5-song demo, and 4 of the songs were positive, clean, party, et cetera, et cetera. I did 1 song that used some vulgarity in it, and ironically, that's the song they liked. They was like, now, this one right here. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You saying they liked it? They who liked it? The audience?
The labels. No, the labels. When they was like signing artists, they're like, this one right here. Now, can you give us more stuff like this? Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at them like, is you serious?
But didn't you know that that's what they would have wanted?
Nah, at the time I was an artist trying to get signed. Most artists trying to get signed, they don't have no education of the business.
Okay.
You know, so
that might be wherein a good answer might lie, since we know that the majority of those artists absolutely are ignorant when it comes to the workings of the business.
This is why I say education is
educating
the key.
them, which is something that UGMag talks about doing.
Yeah.
And there are other people out there, because re-education is what they need. They need to be
exactly.
re-educated. And so the conversation, we need to, I think, look at having a conversation about, okay, well, what format, what forum do we do the re-education? How does that happen? What does that look like?
Well, I mean, it starts at home. And when I say at home, that could be your home or that could be your community. It starts at home. People have to start educating the youth as they going. My ex-girlfriend, I'm gonna use my ex-girlfriend as an example. Her son, when we was watching the awards one day and Soulja Boy came on during this time. This was like 2007, something like that. And he's jumping up, doing the super dance and everything, like Soulja Boy's hot. I'm like, okay. And then Common, the rapper, Common Sense, he came on to perform after. And this little boy sat back. He was about 10, 11 at the time. He sat back and was like, yo, why do they got him up there? He can't rap. I stopped, turned the television down, looked at him and said, wait, you think Soulja Boy, the one you just dancing back and forth, can rap compared to Common? So now I took on that role of like, let me educate you on hip-hop. So I taught him about Common. I taught him about a couple of other rappers and messages and having something to say and yada, yada, yada. When it came down to it, not even a full year later, Soulja Boy is okay to him. He likes rappers that actually can formulate sentences and have messages to say, stories, etc. It's no longer the fad of the Soulja Boy. Not knocking Soulja Boy, because I mean he's an artist too, but he basically got signed because of YouTube hits, not because he had a message to put out there. You know.
Well, you see, you were right when you say it needs to start at home. However, we know that there are many younger people who do not have parents that would do what you did.
Exactly.
That intervention would never take place between father and son, or mother and son, or mother and daughter, or father and daughter. And so, but because some of the parents have the same mentality, but the conversation, though, still can happen around us looking for ways to use other forms of media to re-educate these younger people.
Exactly.
We know what they like, so we know they love music. We know they like to party. We know they like music and they like to party. So how can we have venues that I remember when I was growing up, there were dances. There were places to go and we would dance. And even back in the 70s and 80s, you know, we would go dancing. And that was such a wonderful way to relieve a lot of stress. I mean, a way to hang out with your friends. These youngsters don't have those options anymore. So if
in today's times, like a lot of things is being taken away. Everybody's being more conditioned for the negative route, and what I call the lack of morals, the lack of respect, the lack of principles, the lack of knowledge. And to me, it's irritating when I hear a person like, well, I'm entitled to my opinion. You're right, you are. But if you're not going to take the step forward to learn something, then your opinion has no weight. Why should I pay attention to it if you have nothing backing it?
Well, let's ask this question. Do we think that everyone has a responsibility to younger people or to the community? What responsibility does the artist have to further those values that support respecting the vulnerability of children and respecting and valuing women?
I say always. That's why I say it goes back at this point in time. The major movement has to be the artists themselves, and I would say they would have to find a tricky way on shifting the scale. You can still you can still do the party and music or what have you, whatever you're doing, but find a way to make it positive. Find a way to put more upliftment into your music. The same way you want to be inspired, inspire others.
So how would you educate a young artist to do that?
Well, any artist I come across, I try to educate them. The first thing I tell any artist I come across, I let them know you got to know yourself before you enter into this business. If you don't know yourself, you'll never know yourself once you get in. Because by that time, everybody's going to tell you who you are, and you're going to lose that. The second thing is, I mean, I'm a company owner. I'm an artist myself, a producer, engineer, etc. So I figured I'm gonna put out this album. I got an album that I have put together, but I found a tricky way of doing it, something unique. I not only put an album together, I put a book that goes more in depth about the album. So they kind of work simultaneously, hand in hand. So you have the music, and I had a 14-year-old young man. He kind of got into my computer from his Xbox because we was both using a Wi-Fi. and he listened to a few songs from my album and knocked on my door, like, and I opened the door and I see him. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He said, "That music that you have on your laptop, that's you?" I said, "Yeah." Now, you would think with today's time and today's music that they were only like that. I have more people sitting there coming back to me saying, "Yo, your album, it's tight. Yo, it's hot." I'm like, oh, so relevant substance still stands.
It does. It does.
And I'm applauding Timbaland and Justin Timberlake right now because they're trying to bring that back also. And with the release of Justin's album, even though that's R&B and pop, you still have elements of hip-hop in it, which is beautiful. But the main thing is, in his first week, he sold 900 and some odd thousand copies. He almost went platinum, while everybody is barely going gold. So, yes, there are people wanting substance. They're wanting real music. And when we say real music, we're talking about things that harmonically connect together, from a message to the flow to the feeling and emotion to the mood setting, etc. So that's why I say right now the responsibility is going to fall on the artists more than anybody else.
And see, that's where my concern comes, because the artists themselves, if they're the ones that seem to not have the level of awareness that we're talking about, we can't expect them to correct the problem. We can't.
No, we can't expect them to, but that's where artistry comes from. If this is what they claim is your love, then you're going to educate yourself to be better at what you're doing.
I just don't see some of these young boys that are sagging, really running around saying to themselves, I've got to educate myself to do better. They're making more money than they've ever seen in their lives. They've got all this attention from all the girls. Somebody has led them to believe that they really are all that, and their little egos are so fragile, poor little things. So this attention, just really, it's pathetic, because they believe their own press. They really do. They don't see any need to change. As a matter of fact, they'll probably curse you even worse they'll write a song about that and have even more cursing in it.
Well, I mean, it's not, again, we're being attacked from multiple different levels. Like my nephews, I kind of backed off of my nephews for a moment because they wanted to debate and challenge every step of the way. And I kept telling them, like, okay, before you say anything, do your homework, do your research. Oh, I did my research. Okay. They pull out certain artists. Oh, this artist is this and this artist is that. I'm like, they're okay, but they ain't going to last for so long. And then they pick some type of mentor who portrays to think that he knows the music industry. Oh, I know this and I know that. And he knows nothing. So, one, I broke the dude. I would break the dude down in front of them, and then let them choose. Like, okay, now y'all old enough. They're between their late teens and early 20s. It's either you're going to learn the right way, or you're going to keep going the nonsense way. It's up to you. Sure enough, they chose the nonsense way at first. When they seen that it wasn't working, they slowly find themselves coming back to their uncle, like, yo, Unc, I'm getting my lyrics better now. I'm getting my delivery better now. We're listening to you more than this dude. This dude don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, okay, well, you have to learn, But now that you're learning, understand that you have a responsibility now. Yes, you got to put out good messages. Yes, you have to. You're part of the solution at this point instead of being part of the problem.
Well, tell me this: if there are artists like yourself who are more mature than some of these young children are, at least psychologically, you certainly are. What do you think you can do other than a one-on-one conversation with someone, or having a conversation with your sons, for example, what do you think you can do to impact or influence the minds of these younger people out there that are still producing this very raw material, and who don't see anything wrong with that? Who's going to teach them that that's not what we want to see?
Actually, it has to be, since, like I said, we're being attacked from multiple different angles. So with that being said, it has to be like a movement. It has to be a few people starting it off and start the avalanche, the snowball effect.
What do you mean starting it off? What would the it look like?
Like, for example, one of my artists, which is also a friend of mine, him and a few other artists came up with this movement called the boom bap theory. And
what?
Yes, KRS is part of that. And I understood where they was going with it. They wanted to create another category of hip-hop where the older, mature artists can still get music out and have a fan base instead of being pushed to the side and let the young artists just run amok without any guidance, any direction. I encourage the boom bap theory, but along with it, it's like we have to educate two areas. We have to educate the artists, both of our age bracket and the younger one, to bridge the gap. Because you got a lot of people in the music industry, period, that they're puppets, and as long as the less that they know, the more they'll be used to add on to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just look at how the labels are. I remember when labels, you had your A&R department, you had your artist development department. A lot of labels don't have artist development department anymore. They don't fund that anymore. They give out 360 deals and things similar to that, where, okay, well, you feel you know everything? We want you to take all the responsibility of knowing everything, and if it sells, we reap the benefits of it. If it doesn't, that's on you. So you got a lot of know-it-alls, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, putting their stuff out and not realizing what they're doing. I like Foxy. Foxy Brown is one of the artists, one of the female artists I like, but I'm gonna use her as an example where when she was dealing with Def Jam, there was a point in time when she did the Broken Silence album. She felt that she was so hot, she can do this, that, and the third, and Def Jam was like, okay, well, this time around dealing with your album, since you know it all and you know what you're doing, so you claim, we're only going to put half the budget up. The rest of the money got to come from you. You're going to have to push this album and do this and do that since you know what you're doing.
Okie dokie.
Ironically, that's one of the hottest albums she's ever put together or ever done. However, it was one of the albums that didn't get pushed as hard, so it didn't sell nowhere near than her previous albums.
Well, they didn't want to push it, and that's what they do.
Nah, at this point, they gave the responsibility to her.
To push her own.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Did she have the outlets to do that? Did she have the resources to do that as they would?
Yeah, she's had outlets, but she didn't know the business like that. And that's where, because a lot of artists' egos do get in their way. Mm-hmm. Instead of learning the business, they're stroked with, I'm good, I'm going to sell just because I'm hot.
Yeah.
There's too many things that take part in you being hot. In order for your record to sell, you had engineers mix your album right so that it can be pleasing to a person's ear. You had marketers who did the marketing to figure out which angle and direction to push your album. You had your promoters who actually promoted advertising, pushing it out there. There's a team of people who put you out there.
Absolutely, that's true. And but now it's different, and we have people who are doing what they want to do, who are not even. I dare say that many of these artists let the producers know that they don't want to do a certain type of music. They take certain demos in for people to hear. So whatever they hear, if they like it and see if they can make money off them, that they'll give them some attention. Otherwise, they don't. So they already go in there with
the same mood of what everybody's doing. Yeah, which is why we have what we have going on right now. We don't have a variety of like we once had. It's like a particular type of sound for a duration of time. And then when once that sound is saturated and they're tired of it, whoever who's going to take the risk and try something new, if it sells, then that's going to be the new sound. And
that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and that's
the way that
what's
goes.
been going on in the millennium right now. What's been kind of hurting hip hop and everything. Like, there is no variety like it used to be, where you had your party, you had your education or your conscience. We had everything from your party raps from, let's say, the Herbie Love Bug clique, which is Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, Kwame. Those were mostly your party go-go type sound. Right. Then you had your Juice Crews with your Molly Malls and Coogee Raps and MC Shans, et cetera, et cetera. You had your Boogie Down Production. You had your Flavor Unit. There was a variety of music during that time. Now it's just, okay, well, if you're not down with Young Money, then you're down with Maybach with Rick Ross. And anything else in between is just pretty much the what they call it, trap music,
right?
Which is mostly glorifying.
But what is it?
drugs.
What is it that people? Supply and demand. So if people continue to want that, that's what's going to continue to.
But that's an illusion also, because at the end of the day, what was said to me, I'm gonna put it back out in the industry. I was approached by 2 record label owners, major label owners, and they asked me, "What do you think sells? Like, who makes or breaks an artist?" Like, no, I'm sorry. What makes or breaks an artist? That was the question. What? And I, being an artist at the time, I was like, talent.
Say what?
Talent. Like, if you ain't got no talent, you ain't gonna go nowhere. They laughed at me.
Yeah.
And they said, you know what? We actually like you. We like your material. You're very well spoken. Yada yada yada. We like that about you. But let us break something down to you. We make or break an artist. And I said, excuse you? And they said, yeah, because, and they gave me the scenario. They said, think of anybody that you think album was really hot that didn't go anywhere. And I could think of a bunch of people. And they say, okay, well, now think of somebody that you think don't have no talent whatsoever but sold millions. And all I could do was just stay quiet. And they said, yeah, we make or break you. Marketing and promoting makes or break the artist.
It does.
Because at the end of the day, if the world doesn't know your material exists, then how will it sell?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that was a major key to me. From that day forth, I started studying the music business instead of just coming at it from an artist standpoint. And that happens in today's time. Like I said, you go overseas, you go to China, you go to Germany, you go to London, hip-hop is big. Matter of fact, a lot of artists who can't get anything going out going on out here, go overseas to get stuff
going. That's always been the case. I mean, our greatest jazz musicians had to do the same thing.
Exactly.
They always there's more appreciation, particularly for black-oriented music and art out of the country.
So it's going to go back to marketing and promoting. If you got you have your product together and it's good, then the more you push it, you can swing the times. You can swing the direction of where everything is going.
Well, then would you say that marketing and promotion is marketing and promotion what it needs to be in the underground, in the independent underground hip hop community?
It could be. I mean,
I'm saying
in some aspects, yes, but it could be more. It could be more effective if focused there.
Because I'm wondering if that
technically underground means the stuff that doesn't make the mainstream.
I know.
NWA, as far as they consider gangster rap, was underground. But what made the gangster rap category and fad and movement was bringing it to the mainstream, promoting it. Now the East Coast, the Midwest, and everybody else know who NWA is. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, that at the end of the day, the artist got to take responsibility of the message, and they have to be back with the marketing and promoting, and it will shift the time. It will shift. It's going to offset what's already going on right now. And that's why I use Justin Timberlake released album, 2020 as an example.
Well, I think that my question was about the wondering if we're saying that the independent artists, the independent movement exists as a way of us having an avenue for our voice to be heard in a way that we want it to be heard, and it's without being monitored or without being controlled by any forces that don't have our best interests at heart. If that's the case and we're doing that, then why is the problem still so big? I mean, what is it that the underground movement is doing about these issues that we raise?
Well, the underground movement is still doing what they could, but just like mainstream, you have a saturation of the nonsense. Oh, I ain't going to say nonsense. We have the saturation of the negativity in the underground also. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, unfortunately, yeah.
Hello? Has someone else joined the conversation?
Yeah.
Hi, Danielle from 83.
From Buffalo.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay, tell us who you are.
I'm MC Showtime from Buffalo, New York.
Welcome.
Hello.
I'm sorry, this is Daniela and Archie from 83 Music.
Well, hello, Daniela. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you.
Have you all been able to hear any of what we've been talking about thus far?
Yes, I have.
No.
Got one more person in the building.
Oh, there's another person?
Yeah, you got KD Savannah Kev in the building.
Okay.
How you doing, KD?
Welcome again. So we were in a conversation about the lack of education that exists in the rap community, where people are creating stuff that's called hip-hop. And one of the issues that was pointed out was that there's a lack of education on the part of the younger rappers. And so they not only don't really understand the business of music business, they also don't know how to how to negotiate in such a way that they can present themselves in a better light. because that's all part of contract negotiation too. So we're having a conversation about then, well, if the underground and independent hip-hop community exists for the purpose of being a voice for those of us who can't have a voice in mainstream media because they're not interested in promoting the message we are, the question then becomes one of what can happen or what is enough happening in the underground hip-hop community to address the issue of lyrics and images that we don't think are appropriate for younger, vulnerable people. Hello.
I think it's
Hello.
Me personally, I think it's a growing process with the artist is being an artist, not really necessarily really actually focusing on the public at the time. He's just being him. That's how hip hop and all that rap stuff really started from. It's not appealing to whoever that's like it. It's appealing to people that, that like it and, they just speak it from the heart. I mean, it's just a growing process, and then when a person grow into that, then they can actually, see, and change the direction, You make things, you go in a better path with things, sometimes, everybody got like a little insight on something. It's like, you're not a computer, so you can't think of every insight that's on somebody's mind. It's like, hey, look at the lyrics, hey, look at the clothes, look at this, look at that. Everybody got an insight. So, if artists is being him, they don't have to be focusing on who like and what's appealing to whoever, because they don't like it. They can skip the channels. It's like they can skip the music. It's more as one track, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just how I look at it. At this particular time as a growing artist, So.
Well,
do you think the artist has a responsibility since they have so much influence? Do you think that the artist should be held accountable for the way they give out the message? Not so much the message, but the way the message is delivered. Should there be any accountability for that artist?
It should be. That I really can't. I figure like that. Whatever happens, it'll go in the system. Already that's already being handled. We
what
could
do.
do. More. I just feel like. Something. If you have lyrics and you come out your lyrics and you act up on your lyrics and you start really feeling yourself and all, you already heading down the wrong. But I figure like they need to be responsible for some of the stuff because you know how certain things get sometimes for getting off and stuff like that. So you just basically we have to find a way to control that situation. Yeah.
Okay, but who's going to help see that happens?
Can I jump in?
Please do. Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
I think part of what is lacking is building a team, having the artists build a team of people that have the same vision that they have, as well as the same ideas of how they want to represent themselves. So in that sense, the artists should have a responsibility in how they are being presented to the audience. But if they don't build their team with the right people and the right individuals, that's when someone can, take an artist and then present them in a negative manner, and then it falls back on the artist. Everything reflects on the artist because that's who the audience sees. Mm-hmm. So really, the artist needs to be really conscious and careful about who they pick for their team to help take them where they want to go. Because no one's going to know the face of the director or the face of the producer. They're just going to see the face of the artist.
Exactly.
But do you think that's really realistic to expect? Do you think it's realistic to expect the artists that we're talking about to have the that type of mindset when many of them see these as opportunities to get them out of conditions that they have dreamed of getting out of. And so it never would occur to them to have a team to do what you suggest, which is a wonderful idea. It would be absolutely, I think it could be a way of addressing the issue to a certain extent, but do you think it's realistic to think that's going to happen?
I do think it's realistic, because I don't think that just because they're hip-hop artists that they shouldn't do the same things. Like, in other words, you're only going to go so far as your own expectations. So each artist, no matter what genre they are in, should value themselves enough to know to learn. If they don't know, learn, talk to people, network, get involved with people who like the same things, but maybe, are one or two steps ahead of them, so they'll be able to teach them something. Just because you're, in one genre doesn't mean that the dream and the right way or the better way of doing something should be taken away from you. That's like I grew up in the Bronx. That doesn't mean that I had to stay in that situation. I had to value myself and look ahead at what I wanted, and then start associating myself with people so that I could learn from them how to get out of that situation. I didn't sit there and say, well, I'm from the Bronx and this is where I'm going to stay and live in the same conditions the rest of my life. That's where the value comes in. So, yeah, like the appeal for the fame and the money and everything is there, but I think we kind of take away from the hip-hop artists and say, they're just hip-hop artists, so they don't need to have the same tools that everyone else has, and I don't think that's fair.
Exactly.
I don't think that's.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Though. I don't get that people are looking at the hip hop artists that way and making the presumption that they don't need. I think the contrary is true, that we recognize how much they do need, and this conversation is about looking at various ways we can support that being put in place.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I'm just I'm addressing when you said, is it realistic? And I think, anything is possible. So yeah, it is realistic.
Okay.
That's just my take on it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Anyone
else out there? Hello?
Hello?
Anyone else out there with an opinion?
Yeah, my name is Showtime. I'm listening, but, it's a lot that you can say about it, but, it all starts from, like you say, your movement. If you're up-and-coming artist and you have a movement, if it's a negative movement, it's going to influence negativity from the start,
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a positive artist, then you're looking at a whole different image of how you're trying to go and promote your talent or whatever, Me being an artist coming out of Buffalo, it's very hard for an artist to be successful, first of all, because there's not too many doors of opportunity, and it's been this way for the longest. Artists are just starting to get recognized in Buffalo, and it took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that may have something to do with the negative that's been going on with the hip-hop culture up this way, But, it's up to the artist, like I said. It depends on how promising your movement is and how creative you can be at the same time.
Right.
I promote positivity in my music, though. I don't believe in promoting violence and a lot of stuff like that, So that's where I'm at with my music today.
That's great.
I think the ideal would be to find a way for more of that type of music to be available, because there's the question too of the older individuals who have issue with lyrics and images that the way women are portrayed, who have an issue with the fact that younger artists don't seem to be able to appreciate the struggles of older people. And the sad thing about it is, unfortunately, many and most of these youngsters don't even have a clue about the history. They don't know. They absolutely just don't know. And because they're warriors, I look at these young people as warrior spirits, and warriors will take up the gauntlet, but they just have to. They have to have a cause. They have to have something to fight for. And so I look at sometimes the way these artists express their anger and their rage and their disappointment and their hurt through the lyrics and their music tells me that there are doors of opportunity for us, particularly those of us that are older, to create forums whereby we can have these younger people involved, and we can at the same time educate them about new ways of being. One thing people don't talk about is how do we address all this pain that these young men carry with them from their childhood? How do we address that? I mean, how do we address a lot of the impotence that so many of them grew up feeling? Because one way they now exercise their power is to sometimes be violent, do all the things that they do that really end up hurting them. They end up going to jail anyway, some more. They end up just messed up with drugs in pathetic ways. We just see them, just their lives being wasted because there's something going on the inside that has not been healed. And as long as those wounds are gaping open, they're going to self-destruct. And that's one of the areas of my concern is the healing work that I think needs to go on in the hip-hop community, in this community, in the artist community, period, because we see too many artists self-destruct because they're in so much unresolved pain.
And but I can say this, not to cut you off, I can say that we have become a violent society, even as a young youth, and that's the reason why we have so much negative in hip-hop, and that's why there's so much things that's going on in hip-hop that's not beneficial for up-and-coming artists or that would guide them, because they're always misguided by the wrong judgments and wrong direction, which need to be addressed. It all starts from those who are positive and who's doing the right things in their movement to guide them, and no one really wants to take the time out to do something like that because they feel a young artist is too much to work with when they don't want to listen and they misguided and misdirected, I mean,
well, one of the things I do is I run workshops and seminars and retreats. I have a retreat called Warrior Rights, and it's for men. And it's designed for people in the arts, because my concern is a lot of the self-destructive behavior that I see. And it really concerns me because I know it's all part of a genocidal process. And I just can't sit by and do nothing, so I do what I know how to do. So I run seminars and workshops, and they're geared towards certain populations of individuals, people, all kinds of people. And I think that's something that this particular group that we're talking about could benefit from. I've worked with men over the years, and it's the most amazing thing to see when men go through a process like this and do that type of healing work and come out, I mean, totally different people. And they leave some of that, all that pain behind, and are able to address it in an environment where it's non-threatening. And it feels safe. So I think that's something people don't talk about, nor do they talk about how do these younger people manage their relationships. Are their relationships with women in real life, do they mimic anything that they sing about? Because, and in some cases, yes, they do. So that's another conversation I think that we need to have is how does someone who, let's say, for example, might have grown up in a situation where like I did, I grew up in a household where there was violence. My father was an alcoholic, so there was family violence in my home. Right. So how does someone who grew up in that type of environment not make some of the same mistakes in choices? For example, how do you know not to choose someone that's basically like the people that you know? And with young men, very often, because they could not do a lot about the violence in their homes, that rage was so internalized that when they got an opportunity to feel powerful, they took it out on other people that were weaker than they were. And sometimes it's their girlfriends and their wives.
I understand that too. And sometimes when you grow up in an abusive household or a household with some sort of violence, it sometimes affects the child coming up. And he has no way to release his anger but through music. But that's what all makes it negative when you're releasing it the wrong way. You know, it's a way, too, I feel, that you can express yourself in your music and without being so negative, where you can still reach your audience, but in a positive way, but you still at the same time can give a testimony about what you've been through in your life situations where it can be understood.
Right.
Where it can be understood and respected.
I think that's what we're all saying, and being able to, I think, support younger artists and letting them know how talented we believe they are, and how valuable we believe they are, and how powerful their messages are, and how we want those messages to reach a broader audience. But showing them how sometimes the lyrics turn the audience off.
Right.
I think older people need to really get really clear about who younger people are, and I think one of the problems is that there's this whole generational gap, and sometimes when people get older, they think they just know everything, and sometimes they just don't, you know. And need to learn how to respect these younger people, because they are not like some of us were reared to speak only when spoken to. They're not having it, you know. They're not just people spoken to. So we have to, as older people, learn how to respect and communicate with these younger people and hear them. I have some young men that I absolutely love. I love them because they're just vibrant and just wonderful. There's nothing more wonderful than watching these young men. I love it. And I think that there's a lot we can do, but it has to be, as someone said in the conversation tonight, it has to be organized. We're not organized around the issue.
I agree with you there.
We're not organized around the issue. Well, we've gone over a little bit tonight, but I mean, the conversations just get more and more interesting for me. I don't know about other people.
It sure is.
But,
my mind's racing right now.
Huh?
Right.
My mind's racing right now with different thoughts, and it's a good conversation. Some that definitely should be spoken more about.
Well, we show up here every Wednesday night from 8 to 9:30. Do you think you'll come back next week?
I think I will.
Okay.
Same here.
We'd like to have all of you back at the house next week. We would really like that. And think of some things that you might want to add in the pot to talk about next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Sounds
I don't
good.
want us to always define the topic, but the topic very often is about things that people have talked to us about and said they wanted to talk about or had some issue with, so that's how we end up with the topics. But we welcome them from everybody. So is there something someone tonight can think about that they want to talk about next week?
I'm pretty much listening.
You listen.
I have no problem with nothing. I'm open to discussion on any topic you wish to talk of, so, you know.
You don't have a special topic that of interest?
I do. There's so many topics of interest with me. So,
okay.
And, you know,
I understand the kind of mind you've got. Okay, then. I
do.
He's kind of like me because I want to talk about some of everything.
Right.
You know, everything has some relevance. Well, I tell you what, we'll meet you back here next week, same time, same station.
Okay.
Well, Bonnie.
And thanks, everybody, for showing up. Yes.
I do have one thing that I would like to put on the table for potentially for next week.
Okay.
If we could all prepare, like, from this whole conversation, from what I get is that in order to make a difference, it's going to take that leadership. Like right now, everybody, all of the streets, all of the artists that are coming out with these new projects, they're all trying to figure out what's going to get them paid. And we have to show them how they can get paid doing it both ways. Like they're doing it that way. Now we have to show them how they can get paid doing it the other way. And so as a project, would like to ask or request everyone to figure out a way that artists can get paid, and have that on the table next week in a discussion, so that now we'll be able to combine all of those different things together to provide this forum for these artists. So anybody that needs to be channeled through that, we can have that for them. And a leader as well. We need a spokesman. We need a mascot. And I think if we could all pick maybe your favorite artist that's out right now that has the biggest influence on you, that you think is a good mascot that can represent the leadership that needs to be followed. Artists need to know what other artists have done what we're telling them to do, and they need to know what steps they can take, like such as Tupac, for instance, which I would suggest as one ahead of time, because he's one who was able to transcend between both worlds, but he still had a certain level of dignity that he maintained, and he lashed out against authority and oppression versus his brothers and sisters. And he always talked to his brothers and sisters, and he taught us. He would teach you. He wouldn't disrespect women and call them B's and H's, but he would define what B's and H's were. And so these are different things that we could bring to the table, and we need some type of a mascot so that now we can take that, get everybody to submit a song or something like that for a compilation album in that direction that we want to go in, and then we'll be the example to show and prove to the rest of the world. So that's what I would put on the table for next week.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Because right now we have, when the magazine previews next month, we have a venue or a medium that artists could showcase their work, their material. We have the application where we're going on the phones. So we have access to your own, where we could start now showcasing, like I said, that good content. Get it out there in the air, because there's a vibration that is going on right now, and we're elevating to a higher level of frequency. So to bring everyone on that level of frequency so we could move into the next millennium or billennium or quintillennium. Let's take it there.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've got something we can do for next week. We can come back with some ideas about ways to generate income for our artists. We can talk about, I guess, the kind of resources that are needed or that are available, and begin to identify people that we think would serve as good images or role models to be able to talk about or get the message out that we're talking about. So we can come back to the table next week with that and that conversation. And hopefully everybody that's on tonight will be able to show up next week.
Definitely.
I'll be here. So I'll see you next week, everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Yep. All right. So this is Dre, a.k.a. Andre Dawn Music, with the International Underground Entertainment Magazine, UG Mag Online, with spiritual coach Bonnie Harrison and Tariq Bayen, giving you peace and love. That's right. Bring you from the grassroots up into the sunshine universe. We're gone. Peace.